Hello and welcome to the Sisters for Fitness Wellness Show. I'm Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. Our guest today is Dr. Delia Chiaramonte, and she is the founder of the Integrative Palliative Institute and also author of the book, A Heart-Centered Guide to Navigating Loved One's Illness Without Losing Yourself. The title is Coping Courageously.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you so much for coming. This story or this topic is very, very personal for me. We just lost my dad in 2024.
I'm sorry.
But he was 94 years old, so he had a long run.
It sounds like.
But my sister took care of my mother first for a year, and then she took care of my father for 4 years.
Wow.
And she's a retired nurse. And by the end of that 4-year period, I was just scared to death that she was going to have a nervous breakdown. It was a lot taking care of my dad, as much caretaking as she'd done over her 40 years as a nurse. And I'm bringing you here today to talk to people about how do you deal with caretaking, taking care of yourself as a caretaker.
Exactly. This is my whole focus now. I'm a palliative care physician, and I took care of many families who were helping someone who was very ill or aging and dying. And what I saw was that patients had a reasonable amount of support, but caregivers, family members of people who were sick, were very often just falling apart. This is something that they'd never done before. They don't know how to do. It's high stakes because it's so important. And family members often would bicker with each other. They would not know how to bring their very best self to this process. And so I changed my whole focus to helping caregivers, because when stress researchers try to find groups of stressed out people to do research on, they have two big groups they use: medical students before exams and caregivers of people who are sick, because it is such a stressful experience.
What's the hardest part of that experience?
Yeah, that's such a great question. There are so many hard parts, but I think the hardest part is that it feels like the most important thing in the world to do right, and people have never done it before often and are exhausted. And so the balance of how do you give all your love and care to this person that you love, but also protect your own well-being, also take care of your own nuclear family if you have one, that push-pull, that tug of I want to give everything to you, but now I'm so depleted that I can't be well and live my own life. How do you set boundaries but still be a loving person? How do you take care of yourself without feeling selfish? That push-pull is, I think, one of the hardest things, and it's one of the things, though, that's most important to learn.
How can a family prepare in advance, or is there a way to prepare in advance for what's to come if you've got aging parents and you know at some point someone's going to have to take on that role?
Yes. So the answer is absolutely you can prepare, and also you'll never be prepared. Both of those things are true. And I'll share a personal experience. So I'm a palliative care doctor. I know a lot about this. I've helped a lot of families. I had a lot of conversations with my aging dad, who recently passed, and it was still extraordinarily hard for me. So yes, it's extremely important to prepare, and also it's still going to be hard. So how can we prepare? Part of it is learning, so that the first time you think about these things is not when you're in the middle of it. This is why I wrote the book, actually, Coping Courageously, because it was the things that I saw family members who were doing well were doing. Those are the things that I put in this book, because what I found was in palliative care there were really two big groups of families. One group doing pretty well. They're all on the same side. They're working together. They're sad, but they're having open conversations. They're being honest. They're crying with each other. They're connecting with their loved one. That's a smaller group of people. Many, many, many families were struggling. They were trying their best, but they're so depleted. They were cranky with each other. Kind of childhood wounds would show up, right? The bossy one when you were little is the bossy one now too, even if you're in your 50s. And so some families were really struggling. But what I found was, when I looked at what the families who were doing better were doing, and I taught those skills to the other families, they did better. And so that's literally why I said, oh my gosh, I have to write a book, so that people can learn some of these skills before they're in the middle of the fire. So part of what I recommend is read things first. Don't wait. You know, if your parents are aging, they're probably going to get sick. They're certainly going to get older, as we all are. Read books now. Watch TED Talks now. Talk to friends who've been through this already about what was hard and what helps and what do they wish they had done sooner. And then the big group of things that people need to do is have open and honest conversations. A lot of the stress comes from, we don't want to say to mom, you know, what happens when you can't live alone anymore? Or what happens when you can't drive? No, everybody's busy, nobody can drive you. Everyone's just like, la la la, we're gonna pretend it's never gonna happen. Mm-hmm. And so talk about things early. Mom, there may come a time where you can't drive. Let's talk about it as a family. What will the plan be? There may come a time when you can't live alone, Dad. What will the plan be? Let's talk about it.
I think one of the major problems with us is that half of us live away. Mm-hmm. And my sister and another sibling lived in New Jersey where my dad was located. And we felt helpless, the ones who were away. And then the one who was there with my sister wasn't providing the assistance. How do you have that honest conversation that's gonna cause anger? Like you said, those same exact traits that were present in childhood.
When you were 10,
yes,
they show back up.
Exactly.
They do.
Those angers from Christmas 1966.
Exactly. Old resentments show back up bigger.
And you say, Mom and Pops wouldn't want this. Yeah. They wouldn't want us
They want you to get
like
along and to be on the same side.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you do if you're dealing with a difficult parent?
Yeah.
My mother was a lot easier to deal with than my father.
Yeah.
He thought since my sister was taking care of him that she would take the place of my mother and he could kind of boss her around the way he bossed around my mom. And my sister's from another generation.
Right.
So there were just so many different stressors on her, from dealing with the siblings to dealing with the parent.
Yeah.
And like I said, by the end of his journey here on earth, I didn't know how much more she was going to take. And I just read so many statistics about how the caregiver leaves here before the person they're caring for.
Because of stress. Absolutely. So you asked two really important questions. One is, how do you deal with siblings when everybody has their own point of view? Some are close, some are far away. And then how do you deal with a difficult parent? I'm going to answer the first one first and then second, if that's okay. So the first one, how do you deal as siblings, is the reason that I put a whole chapter in the book about that is because that affects almost every family. So there are multiple dynamics. There's, as you said, the dynamics that came from childhood, who was the bossy one, who was the follower. There are geographic issues. Some people are close, some people are far away. And almost always, everybody brings some sort of feeling about it. Like the one that's doing all the work, that's close, maybe feels resentful about the other people who are not helping so much. The ones who are farther away feel left out. Like, you made all those decisions for Mom and you didn't even ask me. So everybody brings their own wounds to this process. So one of the things that I recommend is, as a family, to make some family meetings, the children or other caregivers, separate from the person who's ill, and make what I call an imperfect plan. And an imperfect plan goes like this. You make a list of all the things that have to be done, meaning clean the house, call the doctors, take him to doctor's visits, give the meds, personal care, showering, all the things that have to be done. And then you make a list of all the people who could help. And that's the primary family, but sometimes there's other people. Sometimes there's folks from church or neighbors or friends who can help. Like, widen your view. Who else can help? Even financially. Sometimes there's an uncle from far away who can't really do any showering, but could send a check to help hire a caregiver, for example. So all the people who could help. And then for all the people who are in this meeting, what do they honestly feel like they can contribute? And the only rule is no judgment. So you can't say, well, I can come for 5 hours on Saturday once a week, but that's it. No one gets to say, well, that's not fair because I'm doing more. Everybody has to self-reflect. Here's what I can give without depleting myself. And that's the measure. Without me feeling totally empty and depleted, what can I give? And then you match the things people can give with the tasks that need to be done. So, okay, you can be here on Saturday, you can stay overnight 2 days a week, you can do meds, you can talk to the doctors, and then you look for what's missing. So what is not filled yet that still needs to be done? This is when you look at the secondary group, like, well, maybe Uncle so-and-so would be willing to, he's a doctor, maybe he'd be willing to talk to the doctors, or maybe he'd be willing to pay for some caregiving at night because we need caregiving at night, but nobody wants to stay overnight there. Or maybe so-and-so person knows about facilities and would be willing to look at the various facilities and make a pro-con list for us, for example. So look at who else can fill whatever needs to be in the list, and if there are still things on the list that are uncovered, you see, can you hire to do that? And when you do that, it puts all the cards on the table. Instead of feeling like, well, I'm trying, but I'm so depleted, but you're not even trying and you're not helping. We are who we are, we have different situations, we have different abilities to give. There's no benefit in criticizing each other when you're trying to work together in a tough situation. So really being okay with what everyone says they can give, that is crucial. And when you make a plan like this, then implement it, then come back in a month or so and see how is it working, what else do we need, it gets all the siblings on the same side.
What we found is that with that plan, not everyone, they would agree to cooperate, to do that portion of things, and then it wouldn't happen.
And that
so
is,
what I guess
exactly.
you just have to come up with a plan B.
Well, and that's why you come follow up. So you follow up with another meeting, you follow up with another meeting and you say, hey, that part didn't happen. It's really hard, but you have to bring non-judgment, right? So not like you're bad because you didn't do what you said, but obviously you weren't able to do that. Help us understand, is this going to be different going forward, or do we need to hire somebody to do that, or do we need to make another plan for that? And here's why. Is it fair that some people do more than others? No, it's not. But it is life, and focusing on the part that's unfair that now makes the siblings fight with each other overall is more heartbreaking. It doesn't help the family. And it's much better to just let everybody say, this is what I can do. I know you're doing more, but this is what I can do. And have everybody be like, okay, we all said what we can do. What we can't fill, we're going to try to hire. If we don't have the money, we're going to try to reach out to our network. Can someone fundraise for us? Can the church fundraise for us? Can somebody else give a check? Often when you widen your gaze like that, you really can then have everybody give what they can give. Nobody's judging anybody. The holes are being filled with hired people, and now you can be on the same side. The hardest part is the non-judgment, but it's important.
One of the things that can be a full-time job as well is dealing with the medical issues, dealing with the insurance companies, Medicare, and nurses and companies that facilitate getting you caretaking.
Yes.
How do you deal with that without having that consume you as well?
So that's a great question, and one of the reasons I think that's such an important question is those are things that people from far away can help with. So those are often research, waiting on the phone, doing stuff online. So whereas sometimes we feel like, well, that person lives in town, so they're going to do all the things. If you really parse out the tasks, the person in town has to wipe their rear end, right? You can't do that from far away. But you can make phone calls from far away. You can gather information, make a spreadsheet, give it to the person who's local to bring to the doctor or the care manager, for example. So those are the kinds of tasks I would try to parse out to other people who can help. So for example, you might say, we're starting to talk to mom about maybe it's time to go to a facility. Maybe it's not safe to be at home, but we don't even know where to start. So you could have a faraway person research all the places in town, look at their websites, make a spreadsheet, talk to the people on the phone, so make the cost, make the financial arrangements, talk about how many people are there, talk about what enrichment they do, make a spreadsheet, pick maybe the top few to take a look at, give that to the person who's local, they can go look at them, as opposed to having all of it be that person, that local person's problem.
What can the primary caretaker do to care for him or herself, meaning exercise, breathing techniques? What are some of the things that they can incorporate when they have time in their daily activities to help them stay centered?
It's so important, and it's really the focus of what I'm interested in. It came from my own caregiving experience. There's a lot, but they're in a few buckets. The first bucket, though, is permission for themselves to even think about that. Sometimes people feel like, well, that's selfish of me. If I love mom or dad, I'm supposed to be all about them and not about me. And that is so untrue, but it's a hard one to break. Here's how I often help people break that idea. Nobody wants a cranky caregiver. If you are depleted, if you're the primary caregiver and you are depleted, you're so wiped out, you can't possibly bring your best self, your most loving, calm, open, empathetic self to your loved one because you're depleted, which means they get a kind of cranky caregiver and they deserve better. So it really is part of caring for another person to care for yourself first so that you're filled up, and when you show up in their presence, you are filled with heart-centered empathy to take care of them, not feeling like you're hanging on by your fingernails and on your last nerve. So the first thing is permission. The next thing is boundaries, which is a word that people don't like, but it's really important. You have to start with permission, though, to even think you deserve to set a boundary. Once you give yourself permission that your well-being really matters and it even helps your loved one, then you have to set some kind of boundary. And it takes some self-reflection to figure out, what do you need? So maybe you need one whole day off, right? Maybe you say, I can do it, but I have to have Sundays off to go for a walk and read a book and take a shower and do some yoga and take care of me. Maybe no one's arranged for you to have Sundays off. So maybe you say in your family group, I gotta have Sundays off. Can anybody come on Sundays? And if nobody can come on Sundays, then you hire somebody to come on Sundays. You have to steel yourself to do it, but it is really important. Maybe it's that I need to be home by 6 o'clock. Maybe it's that, Dad, if he's able to do this, you can only call me twice a day, unless it's an emergency. Like, I'm so sorry, but I can't take 10 phone calls a day about small things. Like, hold them up. You can call me at noon and 5, unless it's an emergency, of course you can call. So whatever the boundary is going to be different in different families, but being willing to say, what do I need to keep my cup full? And then setting that boundary. And here's the truth, other people may not like that boundary, and that's okay. They may be annoyed, and that's okay. They may push back, and that's okay. You deserve to set a boundary so you can take care of your own well-being. And then you think about what fills up your cup. For some people it's yoga, for some people it's exercise, for pretty much everyone it's sleep.
How important is that?
So important. So important. And here's the thing, some people sleep just great. Some people lay in bed and go over in their head, oh my gosh, I should have this happened and that happened and they said this and I said this and I should have done something else. And so then we want to maybe start a meditation practice to calm their mind. Maybe go to a therapist if there's stuff they really want to talk out and get out of their head so they don't think about it at night when they're laying down. Sometimes using a dumping journal can help, which is just an ugly old notebook, not a fancy journal, ugly old notebook at the side of your bed with a pen. And if your mind's going over things, you just write it all down. And what it does is it tells your mind, I took all that stuff you think's important and I put it right there. So now you can let it go so that we can sleep. So whatever it is that's making it hard to sleep, whether it's drinking caffeine at night or having screens too late at night or worrying at night, as I said, or just staying up too late because, or watching TV at night, sleep is probably the #1 thing that is important for everyone in terms of well-being.
What do you do after the caretaking? Because I found with my sister, who I want to dedicate this show to, that it's almost as if he was still alive, even after you find yourself still in that mindset.
Yeah. Well, my dad passed this year too, And I definitely feel that. And the one thing I would say is that grieving is complicated and it takes way longer than you think. And it often brings up feelings of guilt or regret. Even if you've been the caregiver who's been there doing all the things, you probably could think of things like, oh, I should have done that differently or this other thing differently. And really, how we handle grief is just giving yourself grace. It takes a long time. It's hard. It's normal to feel that way. We sometimes make ourselves feel worse by saying, well, why is this happening? Why do I still feel this way? And why am I still struggling? Grief is hard. And when you've dedicated your whole life for years to taking care of a person, it becomes part of your identity. And then when that identity is gone, it doesn't automatically get replaced with something else. So there's a time where you're still grieving that, and then at some point when it's right, it is important to regain a new identity that is no longer caregiver. You'll always be the child, you'll always love that person, but that identity of caregiver is gone. It's important to intentionally fill it up with something else.
What do you do to help families heal, to help them get back together? Or I'm sure there are some instances where it's not possible, other instances it is possible. What have you seen in your work?
Yeah, I love that question. And I would say it's always possible. Always possible. Does it always happen? No, but it's always possible. The biggest, maybe heart-centered approach to this is to try to bring grace to everybody in the family. Even the ones that are annoying as can be, were doing their best at the time. Even if their best is substandard and you feel like their best should have been better, they were doing their best at the time. And so it's a hard situation for everybody. Everybody is doing whatever their best was. And if you prioritize the relationships over the resentments, you often can get back to a place of connection to each other. And it's part of what I do in coaching. I would recommend perhaps going to a therapist as a group or going to a coach who understands end of life and illness, just because if I have my resentment of how you messed up and you have resentment about how she messed up, there becomes a focus on the resentments as opposed to a focus on the relationships. And really, we're all only here on earth for a short period of time. And if we can get back to focusing on prioritizing the relationship and letting go some of the resentments, bringing grace, like you did the best you could, this was hard for all of us, this is kind of a new day. Can we focus on the relationship and how much we care for each other? That's really the ideal.
You realize just like your parents are aging, so are you.
Yeah, we're next up.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. Yeah. And you just want these next few years that you have for us to be a family like we were. And I find it's been a year and a half and the battle continues.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate. People get stuck in the things they're angry about. But truly, this concept that life is short for all of us, we don't have forever, and relationships and love and connection are really what matters here on earth. When we can reframe ourselves around that, you can let go of those resentments. Sometimes it helps to have a coach or a therapist, as I said, if it's really feeling sticky. But sometimes just a family meeting where everybody gets to say their piece. Sometimes people have a talking stick, or you can, when the person has the stick, no one else can speak. So you could go around, let everybody say their piece. I was frustrated when you did whatever. You can't respond. You don't say a word. Everyone gets to say their piece, no comment. Next person, say your piece, no comment. Everybody gets to say their piece, no defensiveness, no comment. And then something at the end that brings you together. Like, now that we've all said our piece, so we all feel heard, let's look at pictures of mom and dad. Let's look at pictures from our childhood. Let's each share a story about why our family is important to us, or a memory of when family was important to us. Trying to let everybody get the resentments out and feel heard, and now refocus on the connection that you clearly have had as a family at other times.
Your work and things like this book are so vital now because people are living longer.
Yes, and sick longer.
Yes, and this book gives you steps, actual concrete steps that you can use to move forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely it does. And it's really important. Here's the other thing. Filling up our own cups as individuals, so say you're a family that's struggling, filling up your own cup so that when you come to a meeting like this, you are as filled up and empathetic and calm as possible. If everybody tries to do that, the meeting goes better. If everybody's hanging on by their last nerve, that meeting is not going to go well.
So how do you insist, fill your cup?
So can I show you a little exercise?
Yes,
I want to
yes.
show you an exercise. I am not an artist, so don't judge me. But here is what I do for myself and for other people. I draw a cup and split the paper in two. This is things that fill up your cup. We'll make a little crack. This is things that empty your cup. So what you do is you write down all the things you can think of that empty your cup. Resentment, anxiety, staying up too late, eating junk food, not exercising, being angry, whatever. Then you put in all the things that do or could fill your cup. Going to bed on time, prayer if that's your thing, meditating, walking, eating healthy food, laughing, your dog, yoga, whatever. All the things that do or could fill your cup. And then you look at this list and you circle 2 on the bottom you're going to try to do less of. So if resentment, I feel resentment, I'm going to circle that. I'm going to try to have less resentment. And 2 on the top you're going to try to do more of. I'm going to try to go to bed on time and meditate for 5 minutes a day. And just by doing that, that's already 4 things that are going to empty it less and fill it more. And when you're like, I got those, and you circle 2 more and work on those. This is such a helpful exercise. Anybody can do it.
Wow, that's powerful. So glad that I had the opportunity to talk to you. I feel better already.
Well, I'm so glad. Thank you so much for inviting me. I so loved this conversation.
We've been talking to Dr. Delia Chiaramonte, and she's the author of the book, Coping Courageously, a heart-centered guide for navigating a loved one's illness without losing yourself. And as I just said, this book is so necessary right now because people are living longer, families are struggling, and they need some guidance. They need some basic steps to move towards healing because we are the next ones up, as you said. We are not getting any younger, we are getting older as well. And when my time comes, I want my children to handle things the right way.
Yeah, me too.
You've been watching the Sisters for Fitness Wellness Show. I'm Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. Have a great day.